So we're going to talk about Drake, but first I'll talk a bit about me and kind of like this is kind of like the usual slide, like why you should care about what I'm going to say next. So like most of the people, I worked in an agency before, then quickly moved to a startup based in Paris called All My Apps. Back in the days, All My Apps was building a Windows application store, so that was like when the iPhone application store got released. I was the first marketing hire there. And over 2 years, I grew the business from 30,000 users to 3 million users, mostly for like SEOs, emailing, and paid campaign. Then, after 2 years, I was like, well, I can do it myself. I'll just start my own company, right? So moved back to Belgium, started my first company, which was like a file sharing platform, kind of like Cloud App or Dropler for the people that use those kind of tools. We were basically competing with Dropbox, so that wasn't a great idea at that time. So that got killed pretty quickly. And then at that point, I was like, oh, there's this new craze of like subscription box, basically, where you can get shipped stuff to you on a monthly basis. So I decided to do something with food, like find food. So that worked really well. But sadly, after 6 months after launch, I kind of like realized that the food business is not something I really want to do. So the marketing side of thing was really exciting, but I didn't see myself like doing food for the next 2 years. So sold my share to someone, moved to trendy London because it was like the tech hub of Europe at that time, right? Joined Pusher, which I'm still there, as a marketing hire, again, like the first business person with a bunch of engineers. And since then, basically, I've been growing the business, trying to help us make more money. And as we go, I moved from marketing to now having that really nice title that basically that means that I can boss people around and tell people what to do and be, hopefully, I've been successful at it right now, so that's all cool. But that's basically enough about me and Pusher. I'm not here to sell you any of these kind of things. Today, I really want to talk to you more about like what it is to grow a startup, how I've been kind of like successful with doing all those things. And I don't want to talk about crazy metrics framework or anything like that. I really want to talk about something that's kind of close to my heart, like how we can make things like really simple. And so I think the first thing to talk about is more about like the startup ecosystem in general and how it is to work and run a startup. I'm sure James has lots of experience with that too. And so I think there's like basically, there's always so many things to do and we never have enough resource. So basically as a SaaS founder or someone who works in a small SaaS company, you try to stay alive, you try to spend your budget or whatever resources you have efficiently, like should you spend those £2,000 on like a paid advertising campaign? Should you spend it on hiring an intern? Or should you maybe do that like trip to San Francisco that might kill or keep your company alive? Like those are kind of great decisions I guess you have to make. And I think what I want to say is really that this kind of like environment is like quite messy and complex. And like I said, like something that is really close to my heart is like how we can make those kind of things as simple as possible and bring your focus to the business, because that's what really is really the most important thing as you do a startup is like how can you say no to those things, or how can you prioritize what is meant what to do. So for me, as I said, doing things as simple as possible and being focused on what matters is super critical. And so this is where our good old friend Drake comes in. So sadly, we're not talking about Drake the rapper, even though I really like him. And actually, I was listening to him while I was writing that talk, hence the great title, picked a bit early maybe. But so we're going to talk about Frank Drake here, probably as cool as Drake over there, but basically Frank Drake came up with like the Drake equation. So I don't know who are people here familiar with Frank Drake or the Drake equation? Probably not. That's all right. I got that covered. So basically, that dude in 1961 kind of like created a meetup back in the days for like astrophysicists, and he was like, well, wouldn't it be cool if we could like estimate like how much life is there in our galaxy, basically. And so that's a pretty fucked up, messy, complex thing to discuss in a meetup, right? And so being all clever and having a PhD, he said like, well, I'm going to do an agenda. And so doing the agenda, he started to list like all the kind of like variables or topics that they need to cover to try to approach to like something that resembles an answer to that question, right? And so as he started doing this, like, well, actually, I'm kind of like building equations. So I won't go into the details of like the equation because it's not the topic today. And I'm sure it's really great. But like, how can you apply this kind of like approach to things to make like the messy, complex startup world or SaaS world, or even your business, to make it really simple? Because what he created is like, he took something really complex and make it like into a manageable chunk that they could discuss and solve one case after the other. So that's something that I've been applying throughout all my job really. It's like, when it's really messy, how you can make that really simple. So that's great theory. So how does that look in practice? Like, it's like you're reading a blog post and someone's saying like, this is how I did it. Like now it's out of date and you have to figure it out. Like, so let's talk a bit about like in practice. So if you take something like the e-commerce world, like that's really a simple example, but like to get us started, like, how can you define growth in an e-commerce business? Basically, it's like how big product inventory you have, like how many products you can sell, how many traffic those pages get, how well those pages convert, basically, and what's the average value of a basket, and how often do people come back to your website. And so we took like the business equation of an e-commerce website and making like in really easyable, manageable terms. So now, if you talk to your mom and you want to explain how you can grow your e-commerce business, well, this is it basically. And your mom might not be really interested in that, but like when you talk to investors, for example, like you show that you understand what are the levels that you need to work with to make your business successful. When you hire people, it's the same thing. Like you can tell, like we're going to hire you, and your goal is going to be you're going to be SEO person, and you need to focus on doing traffic. So again, like that brings clarity to the business and makes things really simple from all point of view. If you do another example, like sales is also something that I've been dabbling with the past year, really. I didn't know anything about sales, and someone came up with this great, basically Drake equation called sales velocity. And what it takes is basically saying, like, if you're like me and you know nothing about sales and you're managing salespeople, well, you kind of know how good they're doing and where they need to focus, because you basically say, how much lead are you working on, so work in progress? What's your currently win rate or close rate? And what's the average deal size? Are you closing $50 deals, or are you closing $5 million deals? How much time does it take for you to close it? Are you taking like one phone call or 18 months to close 5 million? And I think with that, as a sales manager, you can see who are the top performers. Even as a sales rep, you can see I have lots of leads. I've closed nothing, but I have only big deals. So what I really need to focus is like making sure I have high qualified lead, or I need to be better at closing deals. And so even as an individual, it really brings you that kind of like laser focus, how you can improve yourself and how you can contribute to the rest of the business. So another thing like for us is like event at Pusher. So event like is notoriously known to be like something that you can't really measure as an ROI. Like, if I sponsor SaaS stock, like how can I know we'll see. It's like, how can I know how much value I get out of it? Like, and so at Pusher, we sponsor lots of developer events. And so it was really difficult for me to justify spending that money. And so what we thought is like, okay, well, we use event to do brand awareness, to be in the community, to be seen, and basically repeat the logo and be seen. That's really cool. So for us, it's all about how many events that we attend, how many T-shirts we give out, because when we give out a T-shirt, we know that we gave the push-up pitch to those developers. And on the other side, it's like how many talks we gave like today, and how many people were in the audience. And then finally, how many leads we got, like, and people talking to us at the booth were like, oh, that sounds interesting. I work at Go Square. I should use Pusher. But it's like that's really important. So again, like for me, on my point of view, I know what matters. As the team, they know what they need to focus. And so it's like, how can we make sure we hand out more T-shirts, or maybe should we attend more? As someone who give a talk, like should I give like lots of talks to small meetups, or should I focus on giving a keynote at the next Apple WWDC event, for example? Like they are in control of how they want to contribute, so that creates a lot of autonomy. And for a new starter, you show them that to a new starter, you tell them like, you're gonna work on this. This is how you can give an instant impact to the company of the success, to the impact of the success of the company. I think that's really important. As an employee, they really like those kind of things. And so I could go on and on about like how we use those kind of things across the Pusher business. But I really want to, again, like repeat that. Oh, sorry. That's also one of my favorite slides. So VC also adapt those kind of thinking. If you start raising money, they come to you and say, oh, what's your quick ratio? What's your SaaS magic numbers? Like all those kind of crazy things. Like behind the scenes, those are things that are just like Drake's equation for them to be able to kind of like filter the shit deal out of the good deal, basically. And so at the end of the day, that's what they use too. And so I think, this is basically, I don't want to go crazy on like framework metrics or anything like that. Again, like I really want to make it as simple as possible. I think, Drake's equation, or like this approach to like explaining something complex or breaking things down, is really helpful for the business, because it helps you analyze the performance of your business. What needs to be tracked. You can keep an eye on that. You can also review the business, on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, how those kind of like equation evolve around time when you invest more money or you do more things or less things. It brings focus to your business, really. It helps you work prioritization, like as we said, like, do I really need to take a trip to San Francisco when my main goal is to increase traffic? Like, you know, if that's the only money I can spend, I'd better be spending it on like hiring a SEO intern, for example. And I think a great thing is also like, it's a really standard way to describing to your business to internally, externally, it makes it like in full control. And also the best thing about that is like it avoids data overload. Like nowadays with Kissmetrics, Mixpanel, BI, you track everything and nothing, and you kind of like, it kind of like create like action paralysis. And so with this kind of like approach, you only track things that matter to your business, and those things can evolve over time. Obviously, like, you know, what we were tracking 6 months ago is not the same as what we're tracking today, but like that's okay because we stopped tracking the thing that didn't matter to the business anymore. So it brings us like this kind of like really focus on the metric side of things too. You know, and so to kind of like wrap it up, like what's next for you is like, you know, I'm happy to talk about these kind of things for you. How can you take that approach to your business? You know, like the first few times it might be a bit difficult, but like it's also, once you have those kind of equation, like, you know, those things can drive like your hiring plan. You can break those equation into like teams. So you can say, team, you're in charge of like the traffic, for example, in the e-commerce world. But inside that team, they can take the traffic. So traffic growth is like their main focus. So like, what does that mean? Traffic growth is like paid advertising, organic ranking, SEO ranking, things like that. So they can start splitting that up again. And so you have really KPI driven and focused organization that is like focused on doing what matters the most in your business, is like growing the business basically. So that's it. Thank you. The end. And let me know if you have any questions. No questions? I'm happy to talk anything after that.
About what your company is.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't expect that, but yeah, I'll sell Pusher. I can sell it all day. So Pusher is is basically a developer tool. So we are a real-time API that enables like company like yourself, like any kind of SaaS startup, to easily build like real-time features. So for example, if I use GoSquare again, like, you know, I'm sure they have notification, activity things like that things that happen, or real-time graph. Well, if you want to make those graph move, well, you can come to us and you outsource that kind of like burden and that technology. We make that really easy to integrate, so you don't have to build your own platform basically. So our main customers are developers basically. Yeah, that's it. Cool. Yup.